Now I want to talk with you about the poll where I asked you to list the languages that you have some knowledge of. 25 languages, that's not a bad sample. We have about 6,000 something languages in the world. 25 out of 6,000. Now we are on a quest in this class to find out about linguistic structure that exists in the languages of the world, but we're also interested in the notions of universals and language typology. And universals is linked to this question: what things are shared by all languages of the world, or what things are common in the languages of the world, in the sense that many languages or most languages have it, even if not all of them have it. So we're interested in distribution of certain features or phenomena in the languages of the world. So we have this list of languages. If we want to answer a question, is concept X a universal in the languages of the world? If we have something that we hypothesize might be a universal that exists in all languages, we could look here at our sample and say, do all of these languages have it? And if they all do, we can say, based on the current sample, we have a working hypothesis that this is a universal feature, which we need to test against more languages to confirm its universality. Now, that's pretty good. A lot of things one can already do with the sample, but one has to be quite careful. How about we want to follow up a question like, is it common in the languages of the world to have, let's say, phenomenon X? How can we work with this current language sample to answer this question? Well, we would want to see that feature X is present in most of the languages of our sample, in order to say phenomenon X is common in the languages of the world, or is very common, or almost all languages seem to have it based on our current sample. There, suddenly the question comes in, how have we sampled? So what is our sample made of? We have 25 languages, great, but we haven't controlled for whether some of these languages are related while others are unrelated. So that's one thing to look out for. So important question. In our language sample, which languages are closely related and which languages are not related to each other or the others in the sample? It turns out that our sample is actually very skewed, that certain language families are represented with many more languages than other language families. So, if we have a look at our language sample again, these are our 25 languages. But if we look at this in terms of language families, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 language families. Pretty good for a cross-linguistic sample. So we have 8 language families represented. There are many other language families that are not represented, but that's quite normal in linguistic sampling. Oh, sorry, wrong button. That's quite normal in linguistic sampling, that unless it's a huge study, we may not be able to represent every language family. We can say, okay, we have some language families represented in our sample, but it turns out that some language families are, if you want, overrepresented. So we have a whole bunch of Indo-European languages, and then for the other language families, we commonly have only one language. Okay, so it turns out we have a whole bunch of languages from the Indo-European family. In fact, what I'm showing you here in black are the direct sub-branches of each family. So the black ones here these are the sub-branches that are represented in our sample, sub-branches of Indo-European. We have Germanic, Balto-Slavic, Celtic, Hellenic, Italic, and Indo-Iranian. And then we have, of all the other language families, only one branch represented. So it turns out that our corpus, our sample, is very skewed. We have a bunch of Germanic Indo-European languages, one Slavic, We have 4 Celtic languages represented in this class, 1 Hellenic language, and a bunch of Italic languages, Romance languages, Indo-Iranian. We have 2. If we want to know whether phenomenon X is common in the languages of the world, which of our sample languages should we look at? If we look at the entire sample and we find that phenomenon X is very common, we have to be very careful whether that is because phenomenon X is actually common across all the languages, or whether it happens to be all our Indo-European languages that show it. So we're very well equipped with this language sample to show what is common or not, or universal in Indo-European languages, because we have many different branches represented here. That's great. But if we want to answer the question what's common in the languages of the world, how many of the European languages should we actually count in our sample? Well, if for all the other language families represented, we only have one language family, one language per family, if I go back to this other view here. So if here we have only one language per language family, this is what we should probably do for Indo-European as well. Meaning, we should only include one of our Indo-European languages in our sample and compare it with the rest of our sample. So we can't include all of them and then check what's frequent or common or normal or whatever in the languages of the world if we compare twice as many European languages, Indo-European languages, with all the other language families. I hope that makes sense to you. If we're interested in what structural features are common, universal, shared, frequent across all languages of the world, it's really important that the languages that we actually look at ideally represent the languages of the world, meaning as many language families as possible represented in our language sample, and the same number of languages from each language family represented in our language sample. So of all the languages we have from the Indo-European family, we should choose one, because we have from all the other language families only one representative. Okay? Otherwise, our results tell us more about Indo-European than about the languages of the world. That's fine if our question relates to Indo-European. It's not fine if our question relates to the languages of the world. So we have to be very clear about our methodology. What's our question? What's the right methodology to answer it? And part of the methodology is what's the right language sample?